We have one of our dear congregational members. His name's Chris Johnson, and Chris has a very, very incredible story with Christ. And I'm going to give it to you fast. He spent some time on the mission field. He worked with the law enforcement agencies. Then he became director of Bread of Life for a while, and now he has a new position with an organization called Family Set Free, which actually frees people from basically imprisonment in Pakistan. Absolutely phenomenal organization. I've just got to know about it in the last few weeks. But Chris, we are so pleased that you are here. We're so pleased to have you share with us about your heart, about the heart that we should all have, and the truths of Scripture. Thanks for being here today, friend.
Thanks, buddy. All right, am I on? All right. Hey, it is great to be with you today, and I'm really thrilled. What an opportunity to speak to my family and to stand in the place where John is every week. I absolutely love this guy, by the way, and his heart for other people and for loving people, and his heart for you inside the walls and for the community outside the walls is absolutely amazing. I just want to say real quick, Justin, I can outdo you on your grade thing. You know, my daughter, she came home and she's in high school. She had a 4.5 GPA. Okay, 4.5. Okay, I said, Amelia, I said two things. One, I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, and two, if you added up all 4 years of my high school GPA, it would not have equaled 4.5. Okay, I'm just saying. So Justin, there you go. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about show and tell and how Jesus taught his disciples by showing and telling them how to live. And my prayer today is this. My prayer is I want to be on the sidelines, and I want to be looking at a football field, and you're the field, and I want Jesus to be on the field, and I want to be on the sideline like, yeah, go Jesus! Go Jesus! I want to see him making perfect passes. I want to see him moving the team down the field. That's my role today. My role is not to be on the field. My role is not to be the leader of the field. My role is to be on the sideline today, high-fiving the guys when they come off the field, cheering for them, rooting for them. That's where I want to be today, off the field, on the sidelines, and I want Jesus to be on the field, and I want him to be moving the team down the field, okay? So just so you know my heart. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about 4 stories. I'm going to go through them kind of quickly. I think I got to watch my time, so I'm going to do my very best. If I talk a little fast, I apologize. I'm going to go through 4 stories about Jesus and his ministry here on earth. And then we're going to look at what he was trying to say to the disciples, but who's also disciples is who? Yes, yeah, absolutely. So not just what Jesus was trying to teach, not just what he was trying to show and tell the disciples, but he says we're his disciples, right? If we've chosen to follow Christ, we're his disciples. So he's telling us as I share these stories. Show and tell, just real quick. I'm going to try to tell the story quick. My show and tell, we all had it in school, right? And you wanted to have the coolest thing to bring to show somebody in school and to tell about it. And when it was your day to do show and tell, man, this is exciting. Well, I collected rocks. And I was excited, but nobody really cares about iron pyrite, I found out in the 3rd grade. So anyways, my daughter, we had some goats when my kids were growing up, and in kindergarten, and she said, Dad, can we bring a goat? Can we bring one of the baby goats to school? I said, well, yeah, let's talk to your teacher, you know. The teacher said, sure, bring it. So we took this baby goat, and I came walking in with the goat, handed it to my daughter, and they're real docile. If you've ever dealt with them, they're wonderful. They're so adorable. And I handed it to her, and she walked in, so happy, so thrilled to be able to bring a live goat to show and tell, right? And so the kids all are, all excited. They're screaming, and they've got these and if you see in kindergarten, they've got these carpets where they got squares and circles and different colored things where the kids all sit, right? Well, it was a great experience until the goat peed on the carpet. Okay. So, anyways, I thought that I was really doing something big, and then in this first story, one of these stories today, it's going to be like Jesus. I'm thinking that my show and tell was really amazing, or for Amelia, it was really amazing. Well, Jesus shows up, and he takes 5 fish and 2 loaves of bread. Watch what I can do. Okay? So, that's what Jesus does, show and tell. Matthew 4:18 to 22 says this. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. Come and follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once, they left their nets and followed him. As he continued on, going on from there, he saw 2 other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing the nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father, and they followed him. Now, growing up, my dad used to take us fishing, right? And when we went to fish, we went to the Delta. And if they've got these giant rocks and stuff all along the Delta, where we sat on the bank, and we'd cast out and we'd fish, and we didn't really hardly ever catch any catfish once in a while. But there were people out fishing in boats, and they would drive by and bring the waves up and mess up our lines, but they're in the boats, and the bass fishermen would come by and they'd be fishing, and I'm like, so we were the lowest of the low, right? We're fishing off the bank of the Delta, and these guys on the boats they were the one step up. Well, Jesus, what he's telling us in this story is that he said when you're choosing a team in kickball, let's just say kickball when you're in middle school, in grade school, and you're choosing a team, you got 2 captains, right? Who's the first person you're going to pick? The person that can kick the ball the farthest, right? If you're playing dodgeball, who are you going to pick? You're going to pick the person who could throw the ball the best, right? Well, Jesus does the opposite, right? He comes on, he says, okay, my very first pick for disciple, 2 fishermen, not in a boat, on the shore, right? Jesus took the lowest of the low. The disciples that Jesus picked first were the fishermen. They were, in society, they were very low caste. They were not even allowed to go into the synagogue to worship. So this is what Jesus did for his first picks as disciples. The next story I want to talk to you about is the Samaritan woman, and it's John chapter 4, verses 7 through 9. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. So Jesus is now alone at the well. He's sitting down. It's in the middle of the day. He's hot. He's tired. They've been traveling. And he's by himself. And this woman comes from town by herself, a Samaritan. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew. You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Men would not normally never talk to a woman really outside the home, let alone a Samaritan, because the Samaritans, they hated the Jews. They didn't like them. They didn't want to be a part of them. They didn't want to talk to them. And the two just didn't mix very well, ever. Jesus has this wonderful conversation with her. It's just a conversation of compassion and love and mercy and kindness and inclusion. And so because the Jews and Samaritans had this ancient entrenched bitterness towards each other, it was really strange for this to be happening. Very strange for this to be happening. As he's speaking to her, the disciples come back. And it says in verse 27, just then his disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman. But no one asked, "What do you want?" or why are you talking to her? The disciples had to be so shocked that this was happening. Because this was not normal. This was outside of what the culture would say is the right thing to do or what was appropriate. It's completely faux pas what he's doing this day. Jesus was showing the disciples, remember, show and tell. Jesus was showing the disciples what compassion looks like, and that it's okay. In fact, it's how they also should love all people, even those the world would never expect. A quick story. A friend of mine who's a pastor in Lodi, he convinced, he's associate pastor, he convinced his church to buy a coffee shop in downtown Lodi. He goes, this is a great opportunity. You know, we can be in the community. We can have a coffee shop. We can put scriptures up. We can put Bibles out. We can do whatever we want to do. So he did this, and a friend of his said, hey, that went to the church, a girl, she said, I've got a number of friends that are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and they don't really feel comfortable coming to church. And I was wondering, do you think we could have a little get together at the coffee shop after hours? This is the modern day Samaritan woman, right? My buddy said, yes, absolutely. He opens the door. They bring these people. They all come. They have a wonderful time. They have coffee. They have interaction. He said, Chris, you should have heard the conversations. And they were asking, is this guy the pastor? Is he the pastor? Like, why is he here? Why did he invite us? Why did he open the doors of the modern day Samaritan? This is what Jesus calls his disciples to do for the people in the community today. Next story, Jesus feeds the 5,000. When Jesus landed, Matthew chapter 14 through 19 says, when Jesus landed, and I'm not reading this out of the Bible because I don't have time to find it, okay? And this thing is enormous, okay? I have it up here just to show you. I do have a Bible, just saying. So Jesus saw a large crowd. He had compassion on them and healed their sick. Okay, listen to this again. I'm going to read it. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Jesus is in a boat. Okay, why is he in a boat? Let me give you the backstory. He's in a boat because earlier that day, his best friend, the kid that he grew up with, his cousin, whom he loved, dearly, dearly loved, had been killed and beheaded by Herod. The disciples went and got the body and buried John the Baptist. And Jesus, when they went to tell Jesus, when Jesus found out, he went out onto the lake in a boat by himself. Jesus had been informed that his dear cousin John the Baptist had been beheaded. He went out on this boat alone to mourn, to cry, to grieve for the family member and beloved friend that had been killed. It was a time of despair for Jesus. It was a time of depression. It was a time of darkness and pain. And there are times when I'm down, and I get down, okay? And a lot of us probably have those moments and days sometimes. But when I get down and my wife will say, hey, do you want to go and have dinner with such and such or go to this or do that? And my response is usually, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be, I love people, but I don't want to be around people right now. Verse 15 says, as evening approached, the disciples came to him. Let me go back. Let me go back to 14. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. So think about this. Jesus is on this boat. He's mourning. He's in depression. He's sad. He's grieving. But he sees the people. And he says, I'm going to have compassion on them. And he got out of the boat, and he began to heal the sick. As the people came, more and more came up to the point where there were 5,000 men there. As evening approached, the disciples came to him after Jesus healing these people all day long. They said, this is a remote place, Jesus, and it's already getting late. send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food. That's a brilliant idea. That's a brilliant idea, right? Send them away. Let them go and get food, then they can come back, right? They can all go buy their own stuff or make some food at their house and come back. It's a brilliant idea. Makes sense. It makes sense. And Jesus says, they do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. You can see the disciples looking at each other like, nothing, right? Nothing. They got nothing. And then somebody comes up, somehow they come up with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. They said, Jesus, this is all we have. We got 5 loaves and 2 bread. This is not going to go very far. In fact, this is not even going to feed us. In fact, I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten all day, and I'm going to eat a loaf by myself. Okay, so bring them here to me, Jesus says in verse 18, and then on to 19, he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. The disciples have it. They give it to Jesus. Jesus takes it. He blesses it. What does he do next? He does what? What does he do? He gives it back, right? He gives it back to them. He blesses it, then he gives it back to them. Is Jesus going out and handing this out to 5,000? No, he's not. He blessed it. He gave it back to the disciples. So you give it to them. You give it to them. He gave the disciples gave it to the people. The 2 takeaways from this show and tell that Jesus was doing this day was, 1, even when we don't feel like serving others, even when we don't feel like serving others, it's the prescription we need for depression, anxiety, a broken heart, loneliness, for climbing out of a dark place or season in your life. Jesus is showing his disciples, you know what happened to me today. My best friend was killed, beheaded. But I had compassion on these people. I got out of the boat. And I went and I healed these people. He's telling his disciples. Second takeaway, bring what you have to give. You all have something. You have talents. You have gifts. You have a business. You have resources. You have money. You have whatever it is that God's given you. You have a great personality. You can sing. We have people up here playing the drums. Whatever it is that God's given you, right? Give it to him and say, God, you know what? Here, I want to give this to you. And let him bless it. It doesn't have to be big, right? It doesn't have to be $1 million, although that'd be good. Bring what you have and let God bless it. Let him multiply it, because what he's going to do, he's going to take it and he's going to say, okay, here, give it back to you. All right, now you go and give it away. Go and give it away. Go do what you do. Do what I've called you to do as I lead you. He blesses what we have, even when it seems too little, too insignificant. Please don't ever think that what God's given you and the talent he's given you is too insignificant, is too little. It isn't. It isn't. Not in his eyes. He will bless it and provide the multiplication to accomplish his plan. The last story, Jesus tells the fishermen to cast their nets on the other side. There's no way I'm going to get through this. I'm just saying. They said I got 12 minutes left, okay? And I haven't even reached the part where it says halfway yet. Woo, shoot. Okay. All right. I don't want to mess things up. John was on me about that. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. John 21:4. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. So the disciples are off about 100 yards. They're in their boat. They're casting. They've been fishing all night. They're tired. They're frustrated because Jesus, he calls out to them. He says, "Friends, have you any fish?" They answered, "No." He said, "Throw your nets on the other side, on the right side of the boat, and you'll find some." You know what the disciples were thinking. We've been fishing all night. We fish for a living. We know where the fish are. We know when to catch the fish. We know how deep they are. We've been fishing all night. We haven't caught anything. Right? We've thrown our nets here, there, left, right, front, back. We tried everything. They're not biting. I mean, we're not catching them in the net. They're not here. They've gone to deep water. They're somewhere else. I don't know. They know how to do their job, but Jesus says, "Throw it on the other side." So out of obedience, they did it. And when they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Okay, for sure we know that the disciples are frustrated for not catching fish. They did what God provided. They did what God called them to do, and God provided a net full of fish. So many they couldn't even haul it into the boat. They had to drag it back to the shore. What Jesus did once again, show and tell. What Jesus did once again was show the disciples and tell them something that was so against everything they knew to be true or possible. I know how to catch fish. The fish are not here today. Jesus says, "Okay, I'm going to tell you to do something. It's going to blow your mind. Throw your nets on the other side. See what happens." When they did it, God provided abundantly. You see, Jesus does not require us to fully understand what he's asking us to do for his kingdom. What? We don't fully have to understand what he's asking us to do for his kingdom. He's just saying, do it. This is what I've called you to do. This is what I've gifted you to do. Now throw your nets on the other side. Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, God. Just do it and see what happens. Jesus is showing and telling his disciples. He's telling his disciples, not if it's what you want to do, not if it's what you think is right, not if it's what you feel like your body, like I have this feeling, I just don't feel like it's what I should be doing. It's not if it's what you know best or what you think is impossible. It's not. So amazing how when we surrender all that we think and feel is right, and we allow God to lead and direct and speak, even when it seems unconventional, even when it seems counterintuitive. When we do what he directs or calls us to do, incredible things happen. Incredible things happen. When we get out of the way, God steps in and goes, "Hey, let me take this little thing that you're talking about. Let me just show you what I can do. Let me show you." He's already showed us, right? He's already showed the disciples. He showed them. He told them. And now he's telling us, this is what I can do. If you trust me. If you're willing to be obedient. If you're willing to throw your net on the other side. I teach my children that they will become like the 5 people that they hang out with the most. And so I do my very best to live out that life so that they can see my example. So, for example, if John calls me, I'm going. So if it's breakfast, lunch, if it's just to hang out, to go for a walk, whatever it is, I'm going. Because I want to be around people like John. Because John loves people, and he has a heart for people. And he has an evangelistic outlook, and that's his heart. That he has the heart of Christ, in my opinion. And his wife, absolutely love this lady. If you've ever had a chance to go to eat with them or spend some time with them, John tells stories, right? He's a storyteller, and he'll tell these stories, and I know Bev has heard them a million times. I guarantee it. 2 million, all right? But guess what Bev does? She just looks at John so intently and nods her head up and down like she's really never heard this story before. I mean, I love that about Bev. And then there's many people in my life that are like that. Jim Dunn. Jim Dunn's another one. Jim could call me and say, "Hey, we're going to go change a 30-year-old toilet out. You want to go with me?" Yep. Because I want to be around him, right? I want to hear what he has to say. This guy's got a lot of wisdom. His wife, wonderful too. I got to go to Alaska with them. Pam, and such a great opportunity to spend time with them. When he told me they were going, I'm like, "Yep, put me down, I'm going." So ultimately, who do I want to be like the most? Ultimately, I want to be like Jesus. Okay? I want to be like Jesus. So I can spend time with my pastor. I can spend time with Jim. I can spend time with a few other people. But who do I really want to be like? I want to be like Jesus. I want to surround myself with him. And this is how it happens. If we want to be like Jesus, we have to do like his disciples and jump in. Okay? We need to jump in. When God says something, hey, jump into service, even when it seems counterintuitive or doesn't make sense. We are scared or not feeling it. The Bible tells us that not if we pray, but when. Right? When you pray. Not if you read your Bible, but when, and you hide it in your heart. Not if, but when. He tells us not if you give to the needy, but when. He says not if you fast, but when, right? When. So you take all these things, and what is it doing? It's just moving us next to Jesus. We're praying, we're reading, we're fasting, we're giving. This is what brings us into the presence of God. This is what builds our relationship. This is what makes us more like him, because we're spending time with him. I want to share a little bit about what's happening in my life right now. I'm going to skip some of this. Let's see, what do we have up here? Can we go to the first? Let's go to the first picture. Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. Family set free. About a year ago, I met a man at a dinner from a lunch through a mutual friend, and his name was Mike Brickley. And he talked just briefly about rescuing slaves in Pakistan. And I'm a little bit of a skeptic, so I'm like, what? Rescuing slaves in Pakistan? I mean, that's so far away. The only thing I know about Pakistan is that's where Osama bin Laden hid out for 5 years. Okay, anyways, I met him, didn't get to talk much about it, but I heard about it, and I got to meet him. I knew that he had been giving Pocket Testaments, the Pocket Testament League. He had been CEO of that organization for 20 plus years and given away millions of Bibles all over the world. China, they got approval from the Chinese government to print Bibles, right, in China, in English and Chinese. They just couldn't distribute them on the streets. They had to go to the churches. But in Brazil, they gave away millions of Bibles during a World Cup. And what they did was they printed the Bible and they put like soccer balls on the cover. Like, hey, it makes sense. Brilliant. You know what they found out? They said they started finding out that all these bus drivers were getting saved. And we're like, what? What's going on here, Well, people were getting the Pocket Testament, leaving them on the bus. Well, the bus drivers picked them up and read them. Got saved. Family set free. This is what's happening in Pakistan. I'm going to tell a super quick story. It just kind of encompasses what's happening so that you can get an idea. So there are these indentured slaves in Pakistan. And the way it happens is you've got the Christians. There's 4 million Christians in Pakistan, and 1 million of them are in these slave camps. Okay, our brothers and sisters in Christ, they're enslaved. Right? They've borrowed money from the kiln owner, usually Muslim ownership, and wealthy people. And then when they can't pay it back, they've agreed that they would come to the camp and they would make bricks to help pay off that debt. So they get to the camp and the system's rigged, and they can never get out of it. A husband and wife had an 8-year-old daughter. They needed a surgery for her. They had no money. They were poor Christians. The Christians get the worst jobs. They make the least amount of money. They don't get promoted. They needed this surgery for their daughter, about $300. They borrowed the money and couldn't pay it back. 2 months ago, Family Set Free rescued the mother and the father and the daughter from this slavery. The daughter's 23 years old. That's not even the longest time. It's generational, some of them. One of them, the husband and wife, they had 3 young kids. They borrowed money and had to pay it back. The mother, it was for the mother. The mother died in surgery. The father moved his 3 kids to the kiln. They live in a dirt floor hut with no electricity and no running water. The father eventually, after a year or two, dies. The kids had to assume the loan. Two sisters and a brother. We rescued them, got them involved in jobs, got them a place to live, got them. So just amazing things happening right there. Okay, let's go to the next one. That gives you an idea of how many. It's 1,000 bricks a day. That's their goal. If they don't make 1,000, it gets added on to the next day. So she's going through flipping these. Here she is standing there with her family. Next slide. We rescued them. We put them in a new place. We got them new clothes. We got them food. We got them set up with a business. We bought rickshaw and gave them a rickshaw and said, hey, here's a way for you to make money so you don't have to go in debt again. We got the kids in school. This is the mother, the same mother you just saw in the picture. Because the father gets behind, then they say, hey, I'm going to bring the mother on board to help. Maybe I can catch up, these extras that I need to do. Well, there you go, yeah. So she's got her baby. She's taking her baby. And she's cleaning the area so her husband can come behind her and make bricks. The next one. It's a video. Yeah, so see this girl in the white? So these are siblings, and they're stacking bricks. That's what they're doing. That's what their job is, to stack bricks in the heat, because they're trying to help get their family out of this debt. They're not going to do it, right? Let's go to the next video. Here she is praying. She's speaking the Lord's Prayer. And she gets choked up and she begins to cry when she finds out. She realizes they're getting freed. Their debt's been paid. This little girl needed surgery, couldn't see, cross-eyed. So we're like, well, what does it take to get her fixed? So we said, it's about $250 to get this surgery. So we go to the next slide. You see, we got her to an ophthalmologist. We paid the $250. We got her seen again. So this is the kind of thing that's happening in Pakistan right now. Now I want to switch gears just a little, and I want to wrap this package all up. I'm 1 minute over. I'm okay? I got to look at John. Make sure he's not going to get chastised. Okay. Okay, so switching gears a little bit. And I don't really talk too much about aviation because a good friend of mine, he heard that I was a pilot, and he once told me that he was shocked to learn, after knowing me for so many years, that I was a pilot. And I said, well, why? He says, because most pilots let you know within the first 3 minutes of any conversation that they're a pilot. So we're past 3 minutes. All right. So there's one quick little funny story about an old pilot took a person flying who had never been flying before, and they asked, what do you call that thing that's spinning out in front? And the old pilot said, he goes, that's my fan. If it stops spinning, you'll see me start to sweat. Okay. The NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, goes through with any airplane disaster, and they go and find out. It's been in the news a lot lately, right? Well, JFK Jr. lost. They determined that the main cause, the main factor for JFK Jr.'s loss of aircraft control and tragic crash was spatial disorientation. Spatial disorientation results from the body not properly interpreting the signals it's receiving from the rest of the body. Okay? So you got these signals come from your body going to your brain. It's not properly interpreting them. It can occur when there's a mismatch between the information your senses provide and what your brain interprets. Okay? Real quick, if you're in a car, you're blindfolded, and somebody else is driving, if they turn to the left, what happens? Your body moves over to the right. If they turn to the right, your body moves over to the left. So these nerves are sending signals to your brain. There's actually some fluid in your ears that moves around. So you're like, oh, we're turning left. Oh, we're turning right. Oh, we're stopping. Oh, we're taking off, okay? Spatial disorientation happens when those signals, there's a misfire up here in the brain. The signals are not accurate. They're not accurate. So in an aircraft, there's an instrument called an attitude indicator. So this right here, you can go back. This is what you see it's called a six-pack. This is on the panel. And device right in the center, has a blue on the top, it's brown on the bottom, and it's got like a little plane right there. So this is called an attitude indicator. This is the primary instrument for maintaining the correct attitude of the aircraft in relation to the horizon. The attitude indicator keeps you on the desired course even when you can't see what's around you and when it doesn't feel right. So, yes, there it is. So I had flown into to Half Moon Bay with a friend of mine, and our wives were driving. My wife doesn't like to fly with me for some reason. So we flew over, we landed, it was daylight, it was beautiful weather. We met the girls, had dinner, and then we were leaving. As we're leaving, it's dark now, and a little bit misty, but not foggy. It was a black night, though. There was no moon whatsoever. And if you're taking off out of Half Moon Bay to the north, there's some low hills on the right, and there's ocean in front of you, and there's ocean, of course, all to the left. So we take off, and I'm not thinking too much about it. I'm like, okay, we're going to go take off straight. We're climbing out. We're at a good speed. And I'm not feeling, I feel good. I feel like, okay, we're not too slow. We're going straight ahead from what I could see. But I'm looking out the window. And I can see a few dots of light on the hills over here. But I cannot see where the sky separates from the ocean. I can't see it. It's just black. It's all black. There's no reflection. There's nothing. And about 30 seconds, 45 seconds after taking off, I happen to look down at my GPS, which is a separate instrument from these, and it gives you like a line, shows you where you've been. It kind of gives you a little guidance. And I look down, and I see that I'm turning to the left. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not turning to the left. I'm going straight. All my body is telling me I'm going straight and I'm climbing. No, I was climbing, but I was turning to the left. I was 90 degrees off course. 90 degrees. And this fear came over me. This fear of I'm not in the right spot. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Spatial disorientation got me, okay? Because my training kicked in immediately and I went straight to the attitude indicator. Okay, there, my wings are like this. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, and it's a little bit into the blue. That means I'm climbing. Okay, all right. So I level the wings out and decided to make a 360 and head back north, staying on that instrument. That was the only thing I looked at for the next 25 minutes, this instrument right here. Staying on that thing. God says, so the questions for you today here are this. Where is your focus? Where is your focus? Are you looking outside of the aircraft? Right? Are you looking into a darkness? Are you in a dark place, unable to see the direction that you should be going? Is your focus outside the cockpit, desperately looking for some reference or some direction in your life? God has given each of us an attitude indicator for this life, and it's called His Word. That's why I brought this big thing. I hold it up. His Word. This is our attitude indicator. This is what Christians use as your attitude indicator, right? You can look at all these things in the community. You can look at like wealth. You can look at success. You can look at so many different things, relationships, love, whatever. But God says, no, this is the attitude indicator. This is what I want you to focus on. This is what I want you to be looking at. Where is your focus? God says not if you pray, but when. Not if you give the needy, but when. Not if you fast, but when. Not if you read the God's word to hide in your heart, but when you do. This is our attitude indicator. With this decision to keep our eyes on the attitude indicator, God guarantees in John 10:10, the thief comes in order to steal, kill, and destroy. If you're looking for things outside of the attitude indicator, if you're looking outside, that's designed for Satan to steal, kill, and destroy you. It did it to JFK. He got spatial disorientation. Tragically, they lost their lives. The Bible will navigate you to the exact path and destination that God planned for you before you ever took a breath. It may not always make sense, but these words from God will keep you on the desired path that God planned for you even before you took your very first breath. That's amazing. Even when it's difficult, even when it's counterintuitive. Jesus gave all these examples. Watch me. Participate with me. He chooses anyone from the very least to the well-educated and successful, fisherman to the scholar Paul. Jesus doesn't call the equipped, he equips the... Yes, that's right. It's a great statement. It's okay to disrupt societal norms to show love and compassion to all people, even though it may be hard for those around us to see the why or understand what we're doing. Even when we don't feel like serving others, it's the prescription we need for depression, anxiety, a broken heart, loneliness, for climbing out of a dark place or season in your life. Bring what you have to give. Bring what you have to give. Put it in Jesus' hands. He will bless you, and he will bless it. He will bless you even when it seems too little. He will bless it and provide the multiplication to accomplish his plan. Jesus doesn't require us to fully understand what it is he's asking us to do for his kingdom. We don't have to fully understand. Throw your net on the other side, Jesus said. We don't have to fully understand it. Just go with what God's calling you to do. The attitude indicator, if you're looking around for direction, for advice, for understanding, for answers, if your focus is success, money, love, popularity, promotions to guide and fulfill your life, you will experience spiritual, spatial disorientation. There's nothing but God's word, focusing on him, spending time with him, that will ever get you on God's flight plan for your life. My last statement is this: not if, but when. Not if you begin to focus on Jesus and his word, the attitude indicator, but when. When you make the decision to trust the instrument in front of your face and not rely on your own plan, your own thinking, your own feelings, and let his word will guide you in your life. Not just life, God's word says, but life that is full and a life that is abundant. Love you guys. God bless you, and thank you for letting me share with you.